Thanks, Roberta. Hi, everybody. This is the City of Somerville Community Preservation Committee meeting for Wednesday, July 22nd, 2026. I'm Ryan Kirchhoff, the chair. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting of the Somerville Community Preservation Committee will be conducted by a remote participation. We'll have a video recording available upon request as soon as possible after the meeting. Roberta, please call the roll.
Let me see. David Turin,
Here.
Michael McNally,
Here.
Rona Fishman,
Here.
Joe Capuano,
Here.
John Bronnenkamp.
Here.
I don't see Mary Bohart with us yet, and I don't see Carlos Ayala with us yet. Eric Parks
Here.
and Ryan Kirchhoff.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, first matter of business is the approval of meeting minutes from June the 24th of 2026. Any questions or comments on the draft minutes that were circulated?
No.
Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve them as drafted?
So moved.
And a second?
I can second that.
Great. Roberta, please call the roll.
Yep. David Turin,
Yes.
Michael McNally,
Aye.
Rona Fishman,
Yes.
Joe Capuano,
Yes.
John Bronnenkamp,
Yes.
Eric Parks,
Yes.
and Ryan Kirchhoff.
Yes. Thank you very much. The minutes are approved. All right, next matter of business is the preliminary review of the full applications that were received for the fiscal year 2027 funding round. Hopefully folks can see the folder in the meeting packet that went out. I believe we have 9, correct, Roberta? 9 applications this year that we'll be reviewing at least as part of the main funding round. So I think the intention here is for us to just talk at a high level through each of these briefly. And then after that, skipping ahead to the next item on the agenda, we will have our friends from PSUF to dive into a bit more detail on 3 of them, with the remainder of the 9 applications that we have being the subject of further presentations, more detailed preservations next month. I believe that's the intention here. Yeah.
Yes. And I'd like to acknowledge that Carlos Ayala has just joined us.
Hi, Carlos.
Hey, sorry about that.
No
Thank you.
worries. No worries at all.
All right. So the projects that we have received full applications for this funding round include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 historic preservation projects and 4, so I think it's 10 projects, 4 open space projects. So we have, I'm sorry, I'm just having trouble with math at the moment. I think you are correct. It's 5 historic preservation projects and 4 open space projects. The historic preservation projects include 125 Highland Ave, which has in the end requested $500,000 for first phase stabilization of the building, the former Masonic temple on Highland Ave, which according to their application, they envision the front part of the building in the future serving as cultural and performance space. And then second, we have the City of Somerville Armory, which has requested $110,000 for a needs assessment that will determine what is needed to bring the building fully into code compliance and in good condition for the tenants that are using the armory. And third, we have the Elizabeth Peabody House coming back for a request of $230,171 for Broadway fire escape. And I'm sorry, I was reading the wrong name, for the clock tower repair and restoration. And Mission Church of Christ, who had been a recipient of a CPA grant before any of our time. They're coming back this time to request funds for a $25,000 for a condition assessment to help them identify what are the priorities for restoration of the exterior of their building. And Somerville Museum is requesting $154,042 for the restoration, the preservation of another element of their building and more items in their collections. And moving to the open space requests, we have $30,000 requested for graphics at the West Somerville Neighborhood School. This is completion of a playground project that was recently renovated in that schoolyard. And sticking with PSEP projects for a moment, Kennedy Schoolyard is requesting an additional $1 million to ensure that they have sufficient budget for the completion of phase 2. And Art Farm is requesting $5 million. And we also have a request for Spring Street Triangle, which is a neighborhood group that has coordinated with the engineering department at the city of Somerville to expand a traffic island into an actual small park by eliminating a section of roadway to expand the park. And all of these projects together combine to $7.7 million. In addition to $3.6 million that has been committed to the Affordable Housing Trust, so totaling $11.4 million altogether. The actual funds that we know are available that have been budgeted so far this year are $7.7 million for all 3 program areas. I'm sorry, that's the total requested. $3.4 million for the open space and historic preservation program areas. So approximately half of the funds that have been requested this funding round. So that gives an indication that the CPC is going to have to make some difficult decisions this funding round. Certainly, you have a couple of months to read the funding, the applications that were submitted by all of the applicants. We're going to hear presentations on the 3 projects by PSUF this evening. And then next month, we're going to hear presentations from all of the other applicants so that you'll have a chance to ask them questions and hear more about the projects, get a better picture of the projects. And then in September, you'll begin to deliberate on which projects to award funding to. And I will, by your September meeting, I will determine how much carried over funding we might have to add to the current year's revenue to expand the funding available in the budget. And I think that's my high level overview. I think after we have a chance to talk with the PISA folks about the 3 projects that they're presenting this evening, we might come back and you can tell me if you have any immediate off the cuff questions that you'd like me to send in advance to some of the other project applicants so that they can be prepared to answer your questions next month.
Excellent. Thanks for the overview. Before we go over to our PISA friends, just to head off the question, it looked like there was at least one application in the list there where maybe we were expecting an application and then there was no formal request made. Those are applications that did we decline their eligibility? Was it we said they need to do further study before they can put in a full application? What's the story?
Thank you for the question. The two applications that did not submit full applications, they submitted eligibility determination forms and then did not submit full applications. Those include 165 Broadway Fire Escape and Repairs. The city of Somerville determined that based on feedback that we gave them to their eligibility determination form, the project wasn't an excellent fit for the CPA program. It could potentially have been eligible, but was less focused on historic preservation and more focused on just the functional build out a commitment to historic preservation in the future. So they didn't proceed with an application. And also a private condominium association, 396 to 398 Broadway Condominium Trust, had submitted a eligibility determination form, and we did not receive a full application from them. I had given them feedback that some of the elements of their request were eligible. Some of the elements were likely not eligible, and their project might not be a priority given the amount of requests that we had received, anticipating that it will be a competitive funding round. And I just would like to acknowledge also that Mary Bohart just joined us.
Hey, Mary Jo.
Sorry, I'm a little late.
No problem. Thanks for joining. Okay, thanks, Roberta, for those explanations. Any question, comments from my fellow committee members on the high level applications that came in through the door? Obviously, we'll dive in more in the rest of this meeting and next meeting. All right. Well, with that, then I think we can move on to our next agenda item, which is the presentation of applications from PSUF. John, do you plan to take us out or defer to you on how you want to manage?
Yes. So I will go over the first two projects. So I'll go over the Kennedy first, and then the West Somerville School, and then Allison will take it over to go over Art Farm. And then finally, I just also want to recognize that my director, Louisa Oliveira, is with us, and she's going to give some remarks on our future projects because I know there's been a few conversations and requests about what is PSUF's future projects because we're going to be bonding so much. So she can give a little oversight over kind of what we're going to do. Excuse me, what we're going to do over the next few years. So I'm just going to.
If I may, just before we start presenting the projects, I wanted to acknowledge that we have a large number of members of the public who are attending the meeting this evening. And first of all, we will offer a chance to speak in support of projects or to offer your comments later in the meeting. But if you're not able to stay, we do have a comment form. I will try to drop it in the comments or to send it to all of the people who registered for the meeting. I have your emails, and I can make sure that you have the means to share your comments with the committee.
Excellent. Thanks, Roberta. And for folks who are on here, we'll plan to, I think it would be a good idea to have some public comment for folks that want to make them after we hear these three presentations from PSUF. They may go ahead and answer some of the questions that folks might have during those presentations themselves. So thanks, Roberta, for remembering that. All right, John, over to you.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, I need to ask for permission to share my screen.
You should have it.
Thank you. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Wonderful. Perfect. All right. So as I mentioned previously, I'll go over the Kennedy School, then the West Somerville Neighborhood School Seal Coat Graphics, then hand it over to Allison to speak about Art Farm, and then hand it over to Louisa just speak about PSEF in general. So first is the Kennedy Schoolyard renovation project. So it's a project we're very familiar with already. The CPA has already given $3 million towards this project, and we are actively working through construction. We are 57% of the way through construction as it sits as of today, and things are going along very swimmingly. We have some wonderful contractors with us, Classic Site Solutions. I cannot say anything bad about them. So let me just see how I can advance. So the Kennedy School, it's located in right near Porter Square along Elm Street on the corner of Elm and Cherry. It serves the whole community of Somerville and is pre-kindergarten through 8th grade. More specifically, this project is looking at the existing 2 basketball courts, the bus drop off, and the existing parking that is along the corner of Cherry and Elm Street. And we felt that there was strong opportunities to revise the bus drop off and parking to expand the playground. I just wanted to go over some of the goals of the project. So there was a strong need for Somerville to create its first inclusive playground. There's a lot of community members, along with a few different commissions, that have really been asking for that. And so with that push and the push for the Kennedy Schoolyard needing to be renovated, we thought it was a perfect opportunity. The Kennedy Schoolyard houses the Seek, Skip, and Life Skills programs, which are all programs that provide additional support for students who need that additional support. So creating an inclusive playground was just the perfect fit for the schoolyard. But some of the other goals along with inclusive play was really a robust community collaboration throughout this process, incorporating sustainability and resiliency into our project, creating both active and passive recreational spaces, educational spaces, really focusing on shade. The current site is very hot. It's just asphalt and the kids kind of bake in the sun all day. So shade and comfort was important, as well as trees and again, what I was saying before, site reconfiguration to really optimize the space. So what has happened in the project? So from March of 2024 to about February of 2026, we had the community engagement process. So you can see a big list of all the different engagement events that have happened. So there's a bunch of school-based engagement events, meetings with different school administrators, preliminary presentations to school staff about the project, shadowing different teachers during recess, flyering, and just talking to the parents at pickups and drop-off events. We also had a lot of family and community events, back to school nights, parent-teacher conferences, PTA harvest fairs, coffee hours. We then had 2 community meetings with the public, as well as 2 community meetings with the teachers. And then we had numerous surveys, a survey to the teachers, 2 surveys to the public, along with a lot of funding and advocacy support for this project. So all of that created the full design for the project. And right now we are working through the bidding and construction of phase 1. So in February, we put the project out to bid, got, I believe, 4 really good bids on the project. They were more expensive, but with the cost, as I was mentioning before, the cost with the war and this project being a lot of asphalt, a lot of materials that require a lot of bituminous, which comes from oil, did escalate the cost of this first phase of the project. But so we are working through this first phase, and it will be completed in time for school opening, so the end of August. They'll have some remaining stuff to do in September, but substantial completion of phase 1 will be done by the end of August. Then we'll move into bidding for phase 2 and construction of phase 2, but I will talk about that timeline in one moment. So through all the community outreach and coordination with the school, this was the final design that we came up with, a revised bus drop-off location, a reduced parking lot to provide the expansion of the playground. We preserved one basketball court while providing two different areas of rest in shade and tree canopy. And then we have a bermed play structure that goes up to a main play structure that has fun ramps and different inclusive elements so that anyone can get to any piece of play equipment and be a part of any element of the play structures that they want to be so that they feel fully included in this. So this is kind of the full design that we came up with for the project. And then this map just shows you a quick understanding of what we're doing during this first phase. So you can see revised bus drop-off parking, new entryway into the school with graphics, new shade structures, bike racks, a temporary basketball court, and tree plantings, and a lot of green infrastructure. So I can show you some photos of what the construction looks like as of today. So right now it's a big dirt lot. We are doing the fine grading of everything so that we can put and pave the asphalt. Next week, we're putting asphalt down and putting in some retaining walls over the next 2 weeks of the project. Here you can see we found the old Kennedy School, right where we needed to put a lot of green infrastructure down. So we spent about 3 days removing a corner of the old school and some stairs, some cool geological finds. This is that green infrastructure that we had to then put into that corner, helping reduce flooding events like we just encountered today. And then this is that same structure that you can see here that I am standing on at this point. Oops, sorry about that, that I'm standing on and looking towards the school. So again, we're working with Classic Size Solutions. They're amazing to work with and really have no complaints. And we are on schedule with that phase of the project. So funding. Our current CPA request was for $3 million. We have 1.4 of that in the fiscal, sorry, I said fiscal year 26, but I believe that should be, no, it is fiscal year 26. CPA funding, and then $1.6 million of that coming from bonding. And then what we are looking for as an additional request is an additional $1 million on top of that $3 million already granted. So asking for a total funding request of $4 million. I'm sorry, this is a little bit small for you, but this is just the budget cost spreadsheet that you all have included in your packet, breaking out that $4 million request into kind of what we estimate the project to be: site preparation, playground features, hardscape elements, green features, and site furnishings. So talking about costs, the first phase of this project costs us about $1.7 million. That leaves us about $1.3 million remaining in our pot of $3 million granted to us right now. And we feel currently that that is a little bit tight to finish the remainder of the project. So in the remainder of the project, like I was talking about before, we need to complete the installation of the basketball court, do seal coat graphics on that, install shade structures, trees, do a lot of port in place and mound up different surfaces to reach these different structures. The structures themselves are going to cost about $650,000, and that's just for the delivery. I put $1 million in the cost spreadsheet because that's what we estimate the installation of those products with all the correct foundations and whatnot. So there are a lot of expenses that are still unknown on this project, but we do know some elements of it. And knowing some of those, there are some concerns about only having $1.3 million. And thus I'm coming to you for that remainder. So just a breakdown of the final timeline of phase two and what we expect from September on. So the first phase, like I was saying before, the first phase of this project will be complete at the end of August with some remaining tasks done in September. And then we will take a break to allow the school to conduct their normal business. They will have 3 basketball courts, an expanded playground area that's fully fenced off for them to use all fall and part of the spring, with construction then beginning, we estimate in May. So what we hope to do is put the project out to bid in late December, giving it a long bidding process, knowing that there's some holidays in December. And then following that bidding process, contractor will be awarded the bid in early to mid-February. Again, in May, that project will actually begin and go all the way through summer, again, kind of ending in the end of August for a new playground to be open for all of the students and faculty at the start of the school year, kind of at the end of August, early September. And with that, is there any questions? Or I guess, would you like PSF to make all 3 presentations?
No, let's do them one at a time.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it'd be great while it's fresh. So
great.
I know I have some, but David, do you want to jump in first?
No, you please.
So can you just talk us through, John? Like I'm hearing that there's concerns about the balance of funds that are available versus the scope that remains outstanding. But where's what's driving the gap here? I'm hearing some about the asphalt, but how versus where we were a year ago when we looked at this application, we definitely, when we reviewed and approved for the $3 million, which was obviously a huge ask for us, as you know.
Mhm.
I think we definitely would have expected that the trees were in that scope and that playground equipment was in that scope, but it's sounding like that is now maybe being pushed into the new request. So maybe just, if you don't mind, just help us understand what's pushing us into this new budget category.
Of course. So the first phase of the project, we were trying to allocate $1.3 million for the design and construction of that. But some of the main things, like the green infrastructure for the entire project, needed to be installed in this first phase of the project. So there's some big chunks of costs that are coming from that green infrastructure. Um, there's some requirements that we needed to meet that kind of expanded some of the green infrastructure and other elements that we kind of weren't expecting, that kind of increased the cost of this first phase. And so we still thought it was best to accept these bids because they were kind of reasonable in their costs, but they were higher than we expected. And it does leave us in a point where we need to either value engineer the playground a lot to reduce a lot of the play features, or find additional funds so that we can implement it in its full design intent.
Got it. Okay. So primarily green infrastructure cost overruns.
Along with asphalt,
Okay.
and then I'm listening to things on the news, and I hear that there's going to be more tariffs on Canada and some other countries, and one of our main playground manufacturers is out of Canada, so that gives me major concerns knowing that our main play features are right now at about $600,000, and seeing a 20% increase on that does concern me a little bit. Obviously, those aren't certain, but they are just concerns
Yeah.
that
All
have.
all all understandable. I appreciate that. Okay. Um, and I guess I'll probably ask this question multiple times during the piece of presentations here, but so if it's not from CPC, what are the other funding buckets that PSUF has to access, even if they're not first choice? Like where would you go after CPC?
So with our school year projects, it's obviously tricky because we can't dedicate the space in perpetuity under Article 97. So it makes a lot of our federal and state grants not applicable to this space. There are some smaller grants that we've looked at, and I know the Somerville Persons with Disabilities Commission wants to give us some funds for some play equipment, but I mean, their numbers are in the ten to $20,000 range. So they're kind of small pots of money. There's some other accessibility grants that are available, but again, they're like under $50,000.
Gotcha. I didn't know about that first aspect you just mentioned. We, as a city, cannot designate playgrounds or other parks, question mark, as in perpetuity, and therefore we're disqualified from a lot of federal funding programs. Is that right?
Schoolyard specifically.
Schoolyards specifically. Okay.
Because the schools technically have that space for flexibility for them, like what's the Winter Hill and the Sycamore School changing that footprint is changing the open space there, so they need that flexibility to plan for future developments of the school if they ever do them.
Understood. Okay. Thanks. I'll stop monopolizing. What other
Well,
questions?
I just have a quick follow-up on that. I mean, if you've received CPA money, isn't there a kind of similar restrictions on converting it to another use?
I can respond to that. Thank you. So we did not have any restriction in place when the Winter Hill School playground was funded, but in the last couple of years, we've begun adding a condition to our grants that require that if the recreation facility is if the recreation use is changed within 50 years, then the city would have to pay the CPA program back unless the CPC voted to waive that requirement.
And does the enabling legislation of the CPA address this issue on a statewide level? Regarding the allocation of money to open
The
space?
enabling legislation requires a permanent restriction in cases of acquisition, but for projects that are not acquisition of land, there is not a requirement for a permanent restriction.
Okay. As long as if I can continue, I appreciate Ryan asking the question about other sources of money. I noticed what was missing, John, from your response was the city allocating funds. I mean, and these are described in the applications as among the highest priorities of the city for, open space and recreation. Why is it that the city won't pony up any money?
I cannot speak on behalf of the city for that point. We come to the CPA because you are a kind funding source. I can't answer that question. I'm sorry, David.
Okay.
I think I see Louisa's hand up. Brian, I don't know if you can see her on your screen.
I can't, but go, please, Louisa.
Maybe you could stop the share while we have the
That would be
Q&A.
helpful.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Louisa Oliveira, Director of Public Space and Urban Forestry. A couple of things that I want to add to John's discussion. One is that it's not only because of Article 97, but also because schoolyards are not public 100% of the time. So our schoolyards during the school day are students only. And then when the school is not in session, they become neighborhood playgrounds. And that prohibits us from applying for park or grants like Land and Water Conservation Fund. So it's both the Article 97 because we can't constrain our schoolyards because of the population changing and the needs of the different school populations over time, and because they are not public 24 hours a day, or rather during the time that it's open. As to the second question that you asked, David, and this will get into a little bit of the stuff that John has asked me to speak to, but we're at a very different landscape right now. I don't know if any of you have noticed that the city this year had a $5 million shortfall. 29 employees were either not hired or laid off. So we don't have the kind of money to dedicate to all of these projects, which is why the decisions that you make are even more important, because we can ask for all the money that we want, but we are also asking at a time when people are asking for a new school and there are infrastructure needs and other needs. So the reason that we haven't ponied up any money is because we don't have it. So just to put that out there, that we're at a very different time than, for example, when we did Lincoln Park and got $9.5 million and it was no big deal. It's not the same landscape.
Uh, on that note, real quick, I noticed, John, you said that so far you guys have expended 1.7 million, I think you said. No,
Yes.
no, you had only gotten 1.4 in cash, so to speak. So has the city done a bonding to cover that other $300,000, or how are you handling that?
We don't have to bond until we have the bill for it. Um,
Okay.
so when we're getting close to that point, I will let Alan know. And then, like, depending on the timing, I know they take disbursements in large chunks. So,
Yeah.
depending on the timing, this project will jump into one of those disbursement chunks. But probably not until September, I expect, or later, because they have to warranty the trees, and there's some other contingency funds that we hold back for a little while. So we might not need to bond for a little
Yeah.
while. But I can look into what we're holding
No,
back and
no,
we
that's
get.
a fine. I'm happy with that answer.
Okay.
Michael.
Thanks. I'll start by echoing your earlier comment, Mr. Chair, about this being a big ask. The first 3 million that came from us. I know there was some heartburn from the committee to fully fund the bonding. So I do want to just emphasize that the additional funds is, I think, an even harder ask for us at this point. So I want to dive into that a little bit further. Is it possible, since we already have a contractor mobilized, to get like a plus or minus 25% bid that gives us some more data around these costs? Because I appreciate that you're trying to kind of see through the matrix with all the political turmoil, but I think it would be really helpful to get a firm, or as close to a firm bid as we can, from the agent that's currently operating. And I'm sure they've been great partners along the way. It wouldn't be too much heartburn for them to help us out there. Is that something you'd be kind of willing to do?
So you're asking for the current contractor to give an estimate on the second phase of work.
Yeah.
I our landscape architect can definitely and is working on that estimate for us. I don't know if I could ask the contractor to, because technically these two phases are separate contracts, and we want that contractor to bid on the second phase of that project. And
Right.
I'm concerned, I can look into this, but I'm concerned that because I'm asking them to create an estimate on something that they were going to try and bid on later, that's kind of a conflict of interest. But I'm happy to get estimates from my landscape architect as they're kind of working on finalizing the drawings.
Okay, and maybe there's some way to keep that information protected, just so that only the city sees it. Maybe we have an executive session of some kind. But I know I, as one committee member, am concerned about an arbitrary $1 million, and I would like to see some more support behind this, just at the get go.
Of course. Lisa?
Sorry, me again, just adding a couple more things. So this project is being bid in two separate contracts, as John had said, and we are hoping that the contractor that is doing the first one will also bid on the second phase. And it had to be done in two phases because of the school year and the least amount of disruption. However, under Massachusetts procurement laws, there's no way that we can ask someone who may be bidding on the project to give us information. The estimate comes from the landscape architect. We would love to be able to say, hey, Classic, you're great. Why don't you do phase two? But it has to have a competitive bid process. And we have to choose the lowest bidder unless there's a reason to disqualify them. So I wasn't sure if you were ask them for an estimate or ask them for a bid. We can't ask them for an estimate, but we will ask them to bid on phase two. They're excellent. We really would be very happy if they won that bid, but the law necessitates that we have to go through the whole process, and the lowest bidder wins unless there's a reason to disqualify them.
Okay. Um,
Sorry, Michael, can I just ask, when is the bidding? You might have said it, John, I'm sorry. But
We hope
when
to
is,
put the project out to bid in December, or
okay, so
yeah,
after,
December just with a long bid is kind of the idea, because it's gonna straddle a holiday. But winter's always the best time.
okay, but after decisions for this group is why I was asking. All
Correct.
right.
Yes.
Sorry, Michael, back to you.
No, that's actually an interesting train of thought. I wonder if, I mean, we should obviously hold this for when we're actually deliberating, but if maybe the committee would be open to holding back that 1 million or whatever number we see fit until we hear the results of the bidding process. Basically say like, here's a pot that we want to dedicate to this project, assuming we want to dedicate to this project, and then not officially, hand it out until we get those results, and then kind of distribute it accordingly. So just pondering out loud. I don't need any follow up on that or anything.
John,
More placeholder, I guess.
John and Louisa, do I remember from previous years that you guys have to have the budget in hand in order to go to bid?
That's correct.
Yes, and what Michael is suggesting doesn't really help in any way because the money is allocated by the finance folks when the bills come in, not, in other words, they're not taking whatever $1 million and saying, okay, they're incrementally giving the money out. So it doesn't really help us in any way. If, for example, worst case scenario, the bid came back at $3 million and we only have two, then yeah, we've got a problem. We would either have to value engineer it and put it out to bid again or delay the project until we have the money.
One idea I do have is, so you could technically bond, like instead of allocating funds this million, you could bond the funds for this, which means that we're not technically withdrawing any funds until we need to. So when we know, like, we will have the $2.3 million to put the project out to bid and feel fully safe, and the project comes into bid at $1.8 million, we now will never need to bond that remaining $7 million or whatever that we needed. So that's one way that we could technically not tap into resources.
First off, I appreciate the creativity and thank you for humoring all my back and forth on this. Does the committee have the power to revoke a bond? Because basically what I'm stuck on is I am now not necessarily trusting the estimate based on the overages that we're seeing. It's not an individual person's, mistake or anything here, but I'm just in general now, I'm concerned that that $1 million also isn't correct, and we're just continuing to put, infinite money toward the project, and I want to feel a little bit more comfortable about how much this actually is going to cost, right?
I can respond to that. We have in the past rescinded or reduced the bond authorization for last year when we originally bonded and then we decided to put more current year revenue into the project. So we reduced the bond authorization by the amount that we added to the project. So that a similar thing could happen this year as well.
Okay, that's helpful. The second part of this is a little bit more about kind of, and I know the answer is going to be we just don't have the budget, but I personally feel a little bit extra upset about this ask because it looks like we just funded a giant parking lot as opposed to funding the playground half of the project to start. And I know that there's a reason for this order of operations, but it still feels to me like we funded a parking lot and now you're asking for more money for the playground. And it's just kind of giving me a little bit of heartburn. Is there a world where we can try to start soliciting some additional budget from other entities that might be able to fund that parking lot portion of it better, or maybe the DPW for some of the green infrastructure or things like that? Like, is there other groups that can maybe start to weigh in a little bit with this?
So we can look to DPW for like GSI maintenance, like with their maintenance contracts that they have with different groups and the in-house work that they do. Funding wise, I don't really think so, but I would kind of look at this first phase as the lens of the CPA funded the expansion of open space in this project by reducing a parking lot. Yes, there was a lot of parking lot, but there was a lot of green infrastructure that went underneath it and a lot of resiliency that we're solving here, as well as the expansion of open space, which is a goal of the CPPs, but also summer vision and the open space and recreation plan.
Was the green infrastructure for the parking lot eligible for CPA funding?
Go ahead, Louisa.
Sorry. So when we do a schoolyard or a park, the parking lot is part and parcel of that schoolyard. So for example, when we did the Healy, it also has a small schoolyard. Winter Hill it doesn't actually have a parking lot. I'm sorry, the Healy also has a small parking lot. So I really caution you against piecing out this, like, this is a parking lot and this is open space, because the whole project works as a whole. And the runoff, for example, from the playground could be going into that green infrastructure. So I don't, we have green infrastructure in all of our parks, and we have parking lots in a lot of our parks, and we only parse this out because of the school year and trying to minimize the disruption to the school. We're not saying this is a parking lot and this is a schoolyard. The whole thing is a schoolyard.
Yeah, and I follow that, and I appreciate what you're outlining here. And I will say that for what it's worth, I don't have a problem with that being a portion of the project, right? Like, as a whole project, I'm super on board. Parking, you're going to need some parking. I appreciate the fact that we're actually reducing it. These are all great things to me. But what I'm hearing is, if we can't get the funds for this, we're not going to be able to start doing the school ground part of it, the playground part of it, which was, to me, the reason why I would accept redoing the parking lot at the same time, right? And it feels like now it's being held hostage. And again, I know that's not how you intended it. It's not like you did that and then later you're like, hey, gotcha. I know this is because of the construction order of operations, but it still feels like that part is now being held hostage, and we have to fund this additional money, or we're delaying the important part of the project to us, which is, again, just kind of leaving an unsavory taste in my mouth on this application.
And I appreciate that, but we looked at this project, or when we designed this project, we can't predict the volatility of the market and what materials cost, or what, like, we never imagined that bids would come back this high for this portion of it. And I think that John is trying to say, let's not have that happen in the second portion of it. So our options, if we don't have CPA money, is we can ask the city to give us some money in the capital improvement plan. We can wait until we have the money. We can value engineer. I mean, the money for our projects comes from pretty much three sources: outside grants, city bonding, or the CPA. It doesn't come from anywhere else. So when two of those are not options, and not, what, if you say no, we're going to have to go back and say this has to get funded somehow, and then the city has to make a decision, which, it has to be made with all of the other decisions. But it's essentially, that's where our work comes from. It's city money, grants, or CPA. All of our open space is funded in those three things.
Understood.
I appreciate that. And I want to kind of conclude here, and I apologize to everyone else. I'm kind of sucking all the hot air out. Kitty friend. I was a huge supporter of this project from the last round, right? Like, I think everyone probably remembers how much I was going on about it. I really, really like this project. I know the community really likes it. I saw how excited everyone was at the groundbreaking thing. Like, just, there's lots of good stuff around this. I just want to make sure we're doing our diligence on this second phase. So as one member, I'm asking for some way for us to get some more resolution on budget, and also maybe a plan to engage other departments in the city to find ways to maybe reduce the burden on the CPA to kind of get this fully funded. Obviously, no promises can be made through this, but I'd like to see a little bit more detail there if possible, just in the context of all the other projects we have, right? At the start of this meeting, we talked about how there's a pretty large gap between the asks and what we have. And so I just want to make sure we're really doing our homework here if we're going to round this out. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Michael. Really, really appreciate all those comments. Rona, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I just want to know what happens if we say no. Do the kids have a dirt pile for 2 years until you come back a year later?
So There's not a dirt pile right now because it's been phased in two different phases. The existing playground is still there. If you say no to all or some of the funds, then we need to go to the city and say, the CPA said no. Where will this money come from? In the creation of the capital improvement plan that is required by the charter, and you guys are taking all the thunder out of my talk for later. They will need to consider that we're in this predicament and come up with the extra money, or we can go back and value engineer, or we can wait until we have the funds. Those are the options. Nobody wants to slow this project down, obviously, but it has happened in the past, and we've had to go out to bid more than once, and we've had to, I mean, these are the economic realities of construction costs. So we will ask for the money. If the city can give it to us, they will. But if they cannot, then we may have to value engineer or wait. That's just, I mean, it's difficult for us because it's we don't have the money, like no one has the money. So we can ask our colleagues in engineering, but they don't have a magic pot of money that is separate from the pot of money to the city. So we're all vying for the same pot, and we will not give up on this project, of course, but those are the scenarios that could play out.
Thanks, Lisa. All right, I want to be conscious of our time here. Any other last comments on this one? Obviously, we'll have plenty more time for debate and discussion. Joe, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I don't know how to raise my hand. Sorry.
All good, Joe. I saw you.
I guess I have a question from the opposite side. How many spots do we want to get rid of? How many parking spots do we want to get rid of? I'm not 100% sure.
It was 16.
Roughly.
Yeah, it was 16
All right.
parking
I
spots.
don't, is the parking lot full during the day? Sorry, I have a parking mindset.
Yeah, totally understand that. So the teachers are allowed to park on the street in the neighborhood, and there is two additional parking lots on the side on Sartwell Street and then on the
Yeah.
back side of the building. So we did some parking counts. There were a few open parking spaces in the parking lot itself, and then the neighborhood, from the statistics that mobility provided, could easily accommodate the additional 5 space or 10 spaces that needed to be accommodated.
All right. If mobility said so, I'm just concerned because the neighborhood does need parking. So anyway, all right. Thank you.
Brian,
Thanks.
do you mind
Thanks,
if
Joe.
quickly
Go on,
ask?
Colin. Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
thank you. John, I was just hoping that you could just kind of talk us through how are you taking into consideration the rising cost of building material right now? And obviously, again, as I'm not exactly sure when you would get those bids. And again, there could be a certain estimate that we're thinking of right now, but what if the cost is obviously a lot higher when those bids
Sure.
come in because of it?
So me coming for this additional fund is that additional concern. Knowing $1.3 million probably isn't going to suffice now that I know an estimate of what the playground manufacturers are trying to charge for the structures themselves. So taking that number and just kind of reducing it down, I was able to see there's a certain amount of funds that we need to kind of fill the void, and then there is a 20% gap that is our contingency that we always put on projects. And so there's that flexibility. There's ways that we can value engineer that we have tried to kind of work on, taking all the play structures and just making them a little bit tighter together so that we can reduce that poured in place structure, because that poured in place is $200 a square. It's a very expensive surfacing. So if we can tighten up the area, we have less of that. We can kind of save in those regards. So we're already trying to work to reduce costs on things while still trying to preserve the integrity, knowing we've spent a lot of time picking the specific types of play equipment. So we really want those types of equipment because we know the community really wants them. And we've done our due diligence on that. So we don't want to cheap on that. We don't really want to cheap on the sub base of the poured in place nor the poured in place, because if that starts eroding, it just becomes a nightmare for DPW to maintain. Shade structures are really nice, and we really want to preserve shade structures, but maybe there's a tier of shade structures that we're looking at that we can kind of save some money on. Pervious pavers, maybe there's a cheaper pervious paver versus the most premier pervious paver. Those are kind of things that we're already starting to look at, ways that we can save money without reducing the design integrity of it.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks, John. All right, with that, I think maybe let's move on just so we can move through our agenda here to the John, you want to talk about the West Somerville Neighborhood School graphics?
Yes. And I will be quick on that one. So the West Somerville Neighborhood School is a quick project that we're trying to implement. Currently there is a large amount of asphalt around the site. It's located in two areas you can see in red. There's a large swath that has a basketball and soccer net, and then a just large swath of playing area, and then a half basketball court that is just asphalt. So at the west, it's located on Powder House Boulevard. You can see three pictures of the areas that we're trying to paint with graphics. So what we're doing here is the seal coat graphics. It's custom stuff that we've done at all of our different schools. What we're trying to do here is paint a half basketball court with four square in this top area, and then have a kickball diamond with some other games that the school during the community design process helped kind of create some of these designs and racetracks and whatnot. So CBA Landscape Architects created this original design that we still have, and we have the specifications. So we are ready to put this project out to bid if we get funds. So you can see a few different projects where we've done seal coat graphics around the school. We did the Edgerly School. We did the Capuano School. You can see Healy, all fun seal coat graphics, all things that are lighter, brighter colors. So it helps reduce heat urban island effect because it's painting the black surfaces a little bit lighter of a color. It's really fun games. It's great activation of the space. Depending how you paint it, it can be helpful for the teachers to do lineups and recesses and other type of events where you need kids to kind of line up in an organized fashion. So the funding request is we're asking for $30,000 for this project. We expect that it's going to cost about $25,000 for installation of the project, and then we're just keeping $5,000 for contingency related to the work. So the timeline for this project, if funds are allocated, we will put the project out to bid in January with an expected 4-week turnaround, then contracting with the bid the contractor who received the award. And then work is really expected to take about 4 days. This is obviously heavily dependent on weather. So the goal here would be to implement it during school, like spring vacation, a point where the kids are going to be off the surface for at least 4 days. And then within that week, we'll be completely done with the work. So the first day will be site preparation, cleaning the surfaces, clearing debris in preparation for painting, kind of fencing off the area. Day 2 is applying that first base coat. So if we go back 2 slides, will be kind of like these reds, greens, blues. And then day 3 will be applying a second layer of that base coat. And then day 4 will be all of the line work and any detailed graphics on top of those base coats. Again, the budget spreadsheet that's in your packet that I'm sure you all can't see because it is very small right now. And then I can go back to the rendered plan of the graphics if that's helpful. But that's our request for the West Somerville Neighborhood School seal coat graphics.
Thanks, John. Rona?
Yeah, what's the lifespan of that kind of paintwork?
It slowly fades over time. So you get like 3 or 4 good years out of it, and then it slowly fades over the remaining like 5 years.
Okay. So less than 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a pretty affordable surfacing per square foot.
Okay, if you had a surfacing that was just like what they do in garages where it just looks like speckle, do you have any idea how long that stuff lasts?
Uh, I do not.
No.
I
Okay.
no, I can look into that. I know this is kind of the like standard stuff we use. It has a grit in it, so it's not slippery during like rainy or at like icy events. But it's kind of an acrylic paint.
John, when it fades,
Mhm.
is it tricky to put something else on top of it? Like years from now, when something else is needed, how does a different graphic or some how do you wipe the slate clean?
Yeah, so you just paint a new layer of base coat on top of base seal coat on top of all the old graphics. There is some like kind of leveling liquid that you can spread that's kind of like a tar. So if you have a lot of cracks in the surface, you can use that liquid to kind of help create a new level surface. Alternatively, if the asphalt is so disrepaired like the Kennedy School is right now with 30 years, those graphics have been on for 30 years. And the asphalt is undulating so much that no one really wants to paint any seal coat graphics on top of that. So they would ask for a mill and like over mill and repave of that area. And I can also stop sharing my screen so we can all see each other.
Okay, any other questions about this one before we move on to Art Farm? All right, let's crack on. Louis, sorry, no, it was Allison was going to talk us through this. Hey, Allison.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much. Let me share my screen. Does that look like the right thing, everybody?
Yep,
Yep.
looks good.
Yes.
Thank you. Let me move you group of people away from my notes. Perfect. Okay. Hi everyone. I'm Allison Maurer. I am John's colleague in public space and urban forestry. I am joined today by Michael Rosenberg, where Michael's here as a support or to answer questions if needed, but I'll be presenting on Art Farm today and our CPA application. Our firm has come before CPA before, but it's been a while. So just to orient you all quickly to the site, we have 10 Poplar is the location. This is on the edge of Brick Bottom. McGrath is just to the west. You'll see the Somerville Community Path over here, the new East Somerville Green Line Station. Excuse me, if we can still call it new. But it's a big lot. It's an exciting opportunity. I really love talking about this project. So forgive my enthusiasm, if you will, or join me in it either way. But just want to sort of fill you in on the project that has been in active construction is the Poplar Street Pump Station, which you may have heard of. You're seeing a large stormwater tank there. That's the big oval. And the pump house to the left is under construction. So the park would be constructed partly over the tank, but the two lots will be eventually split so that the pump house is operating separately. While we're on this aerial, I might just note to you all, take a peek, note how many trees there are in this aerial photo, note how many parks there are. This is an area with little of either. So in a city, we're acquiring 1 acre of land, costs over $17 million. Building a new 1.33 acre park is a once in a generation opportunity. Art Farm will be one of the city's largest parks, transforming a vacant lot into a unique and vital destination for play, art, nature, and climate resilience. It's doing a lot. But some of the project goals, there are many of them. One of the major ones is this is an investment in an area of historic disinvestment in EJ neighborhood, and it will be the first public open space in the Brick Bottom neighborhood. Beyond that, Art Farm has been in the vision of the community since 2014, so this is a long-standing community desire. It is necessary that it have an arts focus that recognizes the nature and the character of the Brick Bottom neighborhood. It's supposed to be a shared agricultural resource, which you'll see in a little bit of the project history, as well as what we envision for the future. A hub for community connection and thus community resilience. It's supposed to be very flexible, so it can accommodate lots of different kinds of events and programs. It needs to be a regional destination that draws people into this remarkable community in Somerville. And then built into the site on top of our massive, remarkable stormwater infrastructure will be climate resilient design that's managing stormwater in rain gardens, increased tree canopy. There's over 150 trees in this design, pollinator habitat, and importantly, relief from heat. This is one of the hottest zones in Somerville, as you might notice from all the asphalt. This is also an amazing opportunity for us to implement a park that fulfills a lot of high priority recommendations in many planning documents. So from the Somerville Community Preservation Plan to our OSRP to the Brick Bottom Neighborhood Plan, also all the way up to MAPC's Metro North Land Use Priority Plan, quite a mouthful, that was published in 2014 that identifies Brick Bottom as a priority development area. Summer Vision has tasked us with adding as much open space as we can to get all the way up to 100 acres, and this would be one of the biggest contributions we can make toward that number. To give a little context to the site, I'm going to take you through a photo show. Hopefully this is partly just nerding out on the site, but also hopefully entertaining to see what's been going on. It was originally, or not originally, in the most of the 20th century, it was a waste transfer site and incinerator that was acquired by the city and then demolished in 2013. The site after demolition was, in most part a vacant lot, partly storage, but the community and the Somerville Arts Council programmed it, enlivened it with lots of different events from 2015 and in that era. There was a greenhouse installed, beds built. This area was lively, even though it was, sort of generally just a flat open lot. We then started building the pump station tank in 2023. This is a photo of that excavation. It goes down about 40 feet. That tank got covered up by a big cement cap. Those are the columns from the inside. That's a photo from inside the tank, which I think is really just pretty exciting. The pump house vault has been the most recent work, and the pumps just went in 2026. So they're making good progress on this project. And just to note, pump installation was completed in June. Culvert installation is going to connect the pump station to the sewer lines and the rest of the city in, I think, late summer. And the tank at this point has been backfilled over, so that part is complete already. We, with pump station work significantly underway, we turned back to look at the design. This design has been in the works for many, many years. As I said, the community's been trying to envision this project since 2014. We knew, though, however, that the picture of the city, the financial picture had changed. And so we were no longer able to build the nearly $11 million park that we had envisioned that included a large barn structure. And that was in our 2023 CIP. And we needed to make some changes to integrate a lot of the arts functions that were going to be in that building into the landscape itself. So I'll show you some pictures of that. We've been working on a new round of park design with another round of public engagement, public meetings, a lot of focus groups with experts in the arts, community members, all of those things. And we're here in mid-2026. And I just want to sort of pay homage to the work that's come before us, many community meetings, a lot of very passionate, engaged residents and staff members from the Arts Council, from PSAS, engineering involved in the pump station design, have produced a variety of iterations, and we're trying to carry forward the spirit of that project as best we can. So where we're going next is we're looking to release the bid. So we're completing the design drawings. We are currently at 90%. We're calling it draft 100% construction drawing. We're looking to release that bid this winter and then starting construction next summer. And the reason for that is that pump station construction is estimated to be completed next summer. We're hoping those can overlap just a little bit, but we can't start park construction until the pump station is substantially complete, or they would damage what we built and we'd have to build it again. I just want to note again, this is a really interdepartmental project, which makes it really fun and exciting. So we have PSAF working on it. Louisa has been working on this project since the very beginning. We have what is now Arts and Culture. The Somerville Arts Council, now Arts and Culture, has been involved since the very beginning. Michael Rosenberg is my main collaborator on this now. And then I'm working very closely with Dan Amelin in engineering, who is the project manager for the pump station project, to make sure that these align well and to see if there are parts of the Art Farm project that we can integrate into the end of pump station construction. We also have a substantial team already at work on this. Our landscape architects have been involved since about 2016. Stantec has been involved, I think, maybe since 2021. There's a very big engineering contract already existing underway on the pump station. So we will be sort of subsumed by that, and then we will be hiring a landscape contractor through a competitive bid process this winter. Just to give you an orientation to the design itself, these are renderings we showed at the public meeting in February. It's advanced a little bit from here, but you'll note the pump station there on the left, that's McGrath on the left, community garden, some flexible lawn spaces, a stage, and then a workshop grove where we imagine gathering, picnics, and arts workshops. There's a little video that I'm hoping is going to come through, just to give you a sense. We're integrating as much arts function as we can into the landscape, from places where you could install sculpture to performance. That includes a lot of electrical outlets from a very base need. That's what the community is asking for. We could do a lot of different things if we just have electricity. But we have been thinking about how art can integrate into as many components of this design as possible. This will all sit on top of the tank. So just to give you a quick visual of the tank potentially full one day, all underneath the functions of the park, and a great educational opportunity for us there. A couple renderings of what it might look like if it was lively. This main promenade could work for festivals, fairs. In the winter time, we hope to have it still be a lively landscape. The community has discussed options for these small little portal galleries on the promenade. It's large enough to accommodate that kind of exhibition space. Sculptures that could be installed on seating walls. The stage is also a shade shelter. Water feature for heat relief. Community garden. And then this is the workshop grove, where there will be a mix of space to gather and then also display work. And just a couple visuals of what that stage could look like if programmed. So the funding summary, we originally came to the CPC in 2018 for funds for Art Farm. We asked for $1 million, which at that time was 25% of the anticipated total project budget. We were approved a certain portion of that from current funds, and then the rest was going to be come out of a bond request. In 2023, those funds are recommitted, so we have $542,000 currently set aside, and then the request for the bond has been outstanding, and that's where I come in here today. So we're requesting $5 million, which from a mix of current funds and bonding to be determined by the committee. We'd anticipate this over multiple fiscal years, so construction wouldn't begin until fiscal year 2028, if I have that right. So until next summer, there may be some construction that begins in this current fiscal year. We'll probably be doing some earthwork at that time. And then the primary spending for construction would be fiscal year 28 and 29. We are actively applying for grants at the state and federal grants that unfortunately John can't access, but we can access. We have not received those determinations yet. We anticipate those this fall. We're waiting on those. I'm optimistic. I think this project is a very good sell. But what we'd be looking at is to use those to reduce our bond request. So we're asking you for the full 5 million right now, but with the hope that we'll be able to reduce that. I will continue to explore grant application opportunities next calendar year as well. I'm just not quite sure what the numbers attached to those might look like yet. The reason we're asking for an expedited decision is because those grant applications coming in, I need to go before city council to ask them to approve those, and we need to be able to say that we can fund the project. So we're relying on CPA funds to give us this guarantee to say we can go out to bid, we can do this, we're going to go for it, and then I will continue to explore grant applications with our grants team to reduce that fund need. We have received a bunch of grants already. We've been paying for this design phase through ARPA funds. We have a Mass Cultural Council grant to help fund the stage and some of those arts facilities. A little bit left over in an Art Place America grant from 2014, I think. Is that right? And then we're waiting to hear from Land and Water and Park. That's the funding breakdown that you all have seen. So we're looking at spending about 5 million of CPA grant budget and then non-CPA, just about 1 million. We have our project team working on cost estimates right now. We've received draft estimates of 5.5, 6.6, and 7.7 million, but there has been a lot of inconsistency in those. So everyone's negotiating to try to get to a more reliable number. We have another meeting tomorrow morning about this. But we have been very clear with them that we know we cannot fund a $7.7 million park in this moment in time in the city. So while some numbers may be up in the air, we are pretty firm in saying we cannot go over 5.9. We are trying to hold it together so that it doesn't balloon beyond that, and we'll be looking to asking everyone to sharpen their pencils, make sure they've got the right numbers, value engineer if we need to get the numbers down to something we can actually afford to construct, because it is time to finally construct Art Farm. We recognize this is an expensive project, and we are trying to keep those costs in check, but it is an expensive time to build a park, and we have little support while the city is dealing with other major projects like constructing a school, so we're relying entirely on grant funds for that. With that, I'm happy to answer questions.
Allison, this is Mary Jo. I have a very quick question, only because I wasn't on CPC during the earlier when this project was coming early stage down the pipeline. In your discussion or your presentation, did I hear you right? The subsurface tank. This is more just for my own understanding.
Oh, yeah.
Of it. It looked to me like its role is to relieve flooding, because this is a part of the city that gets so much flooding. I guess it's with combined storm drain and sewer. And yet, when you spoke about culvert and connections, you only spoke of sewer. So I guess my question was that a misstatement, or does the tank hold sewerage? Rather than
that is a good point. I'm sorry.
Of storm drain. And in my mind, I was thinking stormwater. But you said sewer, and I was like,
"You are totally right."
I just
misspoke.
You know, and forgive me, because I wasn't a part of the committee when you first came forward.
That is a very appropriate question, because if this was a sewer tank, that would be a real nightmare.
I just wanted to make sure it was. I assumed it was stormwater. Okay.
Yeah, apologies for that confusion. No worries. This is also supposed to reduce flooding in 60% of Somerville. So it is not just managing stormwater from the Brick Bottom neighborhood. It is a large part.
The reason that it can do potentially that much storm overflow relief because it's a low spot topographically in the city. It does do a lot of things flow to that end of the city.
No, that is why there is a pump. So the pump is going to take water that was flowing down, pump it up, and then it will drain out the MBTA. There's a drainage system under the MBTA tracks that will release that water.
Got it.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mary.
I can pull up images again, but I thought maybe it was useful to stop sharing. Just let me know if you want to see anything else.
Okay, great. Anybody else with questions off the top before we open up? I'd love to hear from some community members here if folks are interested in speaking as well, since I know we've kept them on for a while. David?
Yeah, just real quick. Hi, Alan. Um,
Hey.
I just want to understand that because I'm looking at the application, that was in our package as well, and I was trying to make the numbers in your presentation semi line up with those.
Mhm.
Looks like you have, according to the first chart on like page, I don't know what page I'm on, page 9, that you have $2,395,000 in change. How does that
Yes.
affect? But it sounded to me like you were looking to us for almost 6 million of the the $6 million.
Yeah. Thank you for asking for that point of clarification. I noted the Land and Water Fund and Park in there. So when you take away the 1.425 million, then it gets us down to the 970 number that you'll see on the in the next part of the chart.
Yeah.
Because we don't have those funds committed, we don't know if we've been awarded those grants. I put those in there to let you
Okay.
know that
Okay, right.
we have actively submitted applications for them and we're waiting to find out. And it would hopefully reduce the need for us to bond, but it would, I just can't say that we have those for sure yet.
Mm-hmm. And also another just real quick clarification. The next page is an Art Place, letter from 2014 saying that we've awarded the grant of $415,000. But in that table up above, the Art Place grant is only $15,800. Is that again two different things?
It is correct what you're seeing. Those funds were spent on a design iteration in the past, and they have what we have left is 50,800 at this time. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah, of course.
Okay, Roberta, if it's okay, I think maybe let's move on at least to our public comment if there are folks that want to weigh in on the PSEF presentations, and then maybe we can loop back for any other CPC member comments. So I think how this works, Roberta, usually is if folks want to raise their hand, is that how they notify you, and then
Folks
you can admit
can,
them?
yes, people can raise their hand and I will admit them to speak. And when you speak, please identify yourself and and give your address for the record.
Thanks, Roberta. Do we have
So
anybody in the queue? I don't think we actually can see it.
we
Okay.
do, we do.
All right. See you on how you want to
I
manage the order.
Yeah, I'll manage the queue. I see the first hand raised is Peter John Marquez, so I'm going to allow you to talk and please identify yourself. Sometimes the names don't match the people, so that will be very helpful.
Fantastic. The name does match the person in this case, Peter John Marquez, almost 30-year Somerville resident. And I want to thank this committee for the work they do across the entire town. It's unique, it's special, and we really appreciate it. In the case of this project, Art Farm, I was just looking at my earliest emails that mentioned Art Farm, and they were from 2013. Prior to that, when we first applied for the Art Place grant, it was called Brick Bottom Commons, going back even earlier. So the community has been working on this for quite some time. We still are passionate and excited about it for multiple reasons. One, just as Somerville residents, we really believe open space is critical for the quality of life. Two, the original name for this project was the Art Farm for Social Innovation. We felt we could really create great utility for the community and what we could do in a space like this. And in this case, we have a plan to develop a canvas for us to actually create a broader and stronger community around this space. So I want to thank the committee for its consideration and continued support. This is an important project for the local community. I think it will have great impact on the city itself, just on our ability to invigorate this area. By planting this flag here, we will attract more development, healthy development, and a greater community, not just for Brick Bottom, but all of Somerville. So thank you for your support. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Peter John. Thanks for the kind words.
Yeah. Next, I see Matthias Rudolph.
Yeah, hi. My name is Matthias Rudolph. I'm a Somerville resident of 15 years. I have worked and currently am on the Union Square Neighborhood Council, although I'm speaking as in my capacity as a resident of Prospect Hill. I want to shout out the Art Farm project. I think it is a fantastic project, a really important project that will do an immense amount of good work for the revitalization of the Brick Bottom area and contribute to the art community that's both in place there and we would like to see expand. It's got a great open space plan. I think it'll be a magnet and is a really important part of Somerville and Union Square. Thank you for considering it. Please support it. And thank you for the many, many hours that you put in to make the really difficult decisions that make Somerville and then a much better place. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Matthias. Thanks for taking the time.
And I don't see any more hands raised. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Connie Blatchick, I'm going to allow you to speak.
Hi there. Thank you very much for this
Please
opportunity.
identify yourself.
Oh, yes. I'm a 30-year resident of Somerville here at Brick Bottom. As Allison alluded to and others have said, Ward 2, where we're located, is one of the least green areas in the city. It has gone through many transformations, but it is ripe for development. It is an incredible location. There's going to be transformation that we've already experienced with GLX, but we just went to a meeting with the Squires Bridge redevelopment and the lowering of McGrath Highway. This is a neighborhood that is really the gateway to Somerville and is going to be very important in the coming decades. Art Farm will fulfill an incredible role in defining, as Peter John said, defining this area, reflecting Somerville's identity as an art community, as well as fulfilling the greening goals of the city and open space and community building. It is a very, very important opportunity, and I really appreciate your strong consideration. Thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you very much, Connie.
I see Jen Harrington.
Hey, Jen.
Jen Harrington, Ward 3. I've been a renter in Somerville for over 20 years. I'd like to thank Louisa and Allison, who have been amazing at community meetings first. And I'm also really excited to see the Somerville Arts Council being part of the decision-making board. What I would say is, in general, I understand that there's no indoor space any longer on this site, but it's still a disappointment. And I'm hoping that we're all thinking that potentially, if there is funding in the future, that we could introduce that into this site. Because if you go to any arts meeting, the need is for indoor space. If that is not available now, I would ask the city to start thinking about overflow of rain dates. If something's canceled on this site, where can a site be immediately available for that so the community isn't broken for an event that they were really looking forward to? I have a lot to think about, but and I realize this isn't all part of your committee's responsibility, but this is a really complex issue. It's not just about building, it's about planning. And it's not just about planning the site, it's about planning the programming now, and trying to figure out all of the intricacies of having outdoor space. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Jen. Appreciate it.
Is there anyone else who would like to raise their hand?
Great. Well, thank you very much for those that are here, even just to listen or to speak. We really appreciate your time and for hanging in with us. Okay, so before we wrap up here with PSF, any other off the top questions, comments from my fellow committee members? I know we will have time. There will be plenty of debate and discussion about this project in the months ahead. But Michael, you want to start us out with any while we have PSF folks here?
Yeah, I'm going to keep it to one. It's going to be quick. First off, thank you. It was a great presentation. Thank you for all those details. I love the fact that this is such a big, ambitious project. But I also want to think a little bit about the dollar amount versus the amount of people that would be accessing this on a regular basis. Do you have any collateral that you can send us with your application that might speak a little bit to the accessibility of the entire city coming to this site on a regular basis? I know, just being able to draw lines to the two nearby T stations would be a really big help. But if there's other things like bus routes or other ways that there's easy pedestrian access, and even if you want to be a little bit generous and assume the McGrath Highway will be flattened and stuff like that, I would just love to see if there's lots of connectivity here, because I think that would make this even more compelling, that the whole city will have the ability to participate, not just that neighborhood.
Yeah, happy to provide that. And happy to envision the future with a lowered McGrath. I love envisioning that future as well. We are certainly keeping this in mind in conversations with the MBTA about McGrath. So, how crosswalks hit the park is a part of those conversations. And so I can provide sort of early, early ideas about that. I do think, as Connie noted, it's a great moment to be building this park with the GLX opened, the community path extended. This would be the first in what we hope will be a spine of green spaces across Brick Bottom. So it's not a standalone park, but it becomes a greener neighborhood in general. That's a long-term vision, but what we're trying to do is sort of set the tone for future development, to land something green, comfortable, that supports community connectivity and stability in that neighborhood. So I'm happy to provide that and can forward that to Roberta a little bit later.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Allison. John, please.
I think the one last thing piece I've wanted to do, I know Louisa has touched on it throughout both of our presentations, but we were just going to give kind of an overview of what you can expect from PSF over the next few years.
That would be great, just to kind of put into perspective, especially as we consider bonding. We'd appreciate that.
Great, thank you. I'll hand it over to Louisa.
Sure, thank you. Again, I'm Louisa Oliveira, and Public Space and Urban Forestry, also known as PSF, is our team that we are landscape architects and arborists. So we do open space and trees. We have, since the beginning of the CPA, partnered with you to fund a lot of our projects and really could not have done the work that we do without you. I have been on the CPC. We have had other employees on the CPC since its inception. So we can't thank you enough for how this money makes us be able to do our job. And I do ask you to not look at CPA as a different thing than the city, because we're all trying to make open space that residents enjoy. And I do think we have a very good open space network in Somerville, something that our team is very proud of. So we are at a very different landscape right now. And my understanding is that you'd like to know what we have planned so that you can know what decisions to make. And there are a couple of places that we can go for this. So every year we have to, or every, 10 years, we have to write an open space and recreation plan. And Allison, feel free to jump in, because Allison is the principal author of this plan. The last one was completed in 2025. You can Google Somerville Open Space and Recreation Plan. And if I can quickly talk about the methodology of finding out which projects come next. The plan starts with very thorough community process and community survey of what our goals are, and then identifying what those goals are for the next 10 years. And then I also identifying the projects that we have in mind for the next 10 years. It's not a concrete list, but it's based on community needs and then also an overlay of the condition of our parks, which we have assessed. So you can find that on page 149, and I can drop it into the chat if you'd like to know. It's a New York Times bestseller, chock full of information. If you want physical copies, we have some and would be happy to distribute them. I'm joking, but it's actually really good and would really inform decision making for this committee. So the open space and recreation plan, page 149 has the things that we're working on. It has our report card from the last one, and it also has future looking. And then in the new city charter, the administration is required to write a capital improvement plan. And that is where they figure out all of the different projects that are going to happen and which ones they will fund and how. That has not come out yet, but we are waiting for that. And as I said, when we are asking for projects, we are also competing with all the other, be it schools or infrastructure. We're also in that same pot looking for those same funds. So because of what's happening economically right now, CPA is even more important for us. And we really are focusing on projects that both increase open space, like the art farm in a crucial neighborhood and a future looking neighborhood. We're not just building a park over there, but an entire neighborhood. And so that central green and I have given prime years of my life to that project. It's been 10 years now. But that central green is a really important focal point for that new neighborhood. And also the Kennedy Schoolyard, which provides an important inclusive playground. So I cannot tell you, oh, we are doing all of these things tomorrow, and next year we're doing this, and next year we're doing that, because just like what happened with the Kennedy School, we had some projects that went out that came in way under budget, and we were like, hurrah, the construction atmosphere is better. And then we got the Kennedy School that came in way over. So, and it is all dependent on what money is available. And I wish that I made those decisions because I would put it all towards parks and trees. But alas, I do not. There is a process. But I encourage you to take a look at the open space and recreation plan, not only for the context of our open space networks and our identified community needs. It was a very robust community process, but also I think they can help explain why we are putting these two projects forth. And they are both projects that are serve a very large public and increase open space, which has always been identified as a community goal. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them. And again, just really appreciate being able to do projects because of the funding that the CPA offers.
Thanks, Louisa. Any questions or comments for Louisa? David.
Yeah, hi, Louisa. Thanks so much for that. The CIP plan that you referred to, two questions about it. One is when are you expecting it? Are we going to have it before, we have to be making decisions on these applications? That would be nice. And the other is, is it a 5-year plan? Is it a 10-year plan? What is it? What's the time horizon for the plan?
Those are great questions. We have been without one for a couple of years now. I would have liked to have one 2 years ago.
Mhm.
That's not way above my pay grade. And I believe it's a 5-year plan, and it's adjusted every year. It's in the city charter what it needs to be, but it really is setting a course for how we invest money. Again, like everything else, something happens at a school, and then all the work that was done to figure out the budgeting, moves to a different atmosphere. So I'm hoping we will have one by the end of the year. And also we can get some more information to find out when we expect that to come.
Thank you. Because just for context, one of the reasons that we're grappling with these projects and especially the bond issuance for these projects is that the debt service will take such a big chunk out of our allocations, for, maybe 15 or 20 years. And, and we have about $1.5 million that we can allocate to, open space and recreation. And, and if 30 or 40 or 50% of that is just debt service, I think that's a problem.
I don't know how the finances shake out, if that is indeed the way that it works. But the other thing to keep in mind is that Allison has been twisting herself in knots applying to all these different grants. And I think we have a very high chance of getting them. And they're not a little bit of money. It's close to $2 million. So, as soon as we know that we get those, our ask will come down. We're not trying to just collect money. We're trying to finance the project. So our ask of 5 million, and I think we're going to know that this fall. Once we know it's 400,000 with the park grant and then 1 point something with the other ones, then of course we would not bond for the full 5. We wouldn't do that anyway because that's not the way the city does this stuff. But I don't know the exact shakeout of the funds, and how much you end up paying in interest.
Well, and I just was bringing that up because, we've been having meetings that you're not always at. And, and this is one of the things we're grappling with is, first with the Kennedy School and with the art farm kind of on the horizon, now we have both of them, in front of us.
Yeah, I think the crux of the question David's raising is, the 9 of us or whatever we are here now on the CPC, and we have our budget allocation now. When we're bonding, we're effectively borrowing from future CPCs, 10, 15, 20 years into the future, whatever it may be. And as the bonds add up from last year and this year, and understanding, what the capacity or the potential is for future bonding requests from PSUF and other entities, we just need to be careful to make sure that we're being good stewards of the CPC and the CPA.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. The one thing I will say to that is parks are not going to get cheaper. So, for example, when we look at the money we spent on huge projects like the Healy or Lincoln Park, very beloved, well-used, large open spaces, we could never build those for the amount of money that we have today. So, I get it. You're hedging the future of open space, but also the future costs. And at the moment, as you can see on the list, there are some playgrounds that could be redone. There are some parks that could be redone, but these are kind of our last biggies for a little bit. The Kennedy is the last schoolyard. We some time ago really looked at our schoolyards as increasing open space because it really does as a neighborhood space. We might lose the Winter Hill, which is a real shame because it's so well used. And then the art farm is really a lot, it was a lot bigger until the engineers got it, but it's over an acre, a little bit over an acre of open space. And at acquiring that, we know that it's $17 million per acre. So yeah, we hear everything that you say, and we just appreciate the consideration to get these projects built.
Understood. Thanks, Louisa. Okay. Oh yeah, Allison, you want to add something? Go ahead.
If I may just add to that, I think, I think like one thing that I've been reckoning with is like, yes, this is a huge ask, but we've also been trying to build this project for, 11, 12 years. And so if you think of it per year, not that bad, but it's, like this is the fulfillment of a long-term community ask, community dream. And so, yes, it takes away from some future goals, but if we don't build it, then this very long-term vision remains a very long-term dream only. And so we're trying to finally sort of make this vision a reality. And I think that Kennedy and Art Farm, for what they can contribute to the city in their uniqueness of their open spaces, is a really remarkable opportunity for us to be here, sitting here deciding as to whether or not we can build these things. But John is already building it, so kudos, John. Way to go. But yeah, I think this is like, it's an exciting moment. It doesn't have to be a scary moment of taking away from the future, but I just think of this as a real contribution to the future community as well. I understand your consideration. I just thought I would
No,
place that in front of you.
all understood. Thanks for adding that, Allison. Okay, well, with that, I want to be respectful of folks' time. Piece of folks, to the extent in the future months, are we able to reach out to you for questions or visits again here? I know we'll have John, obviously, but it's great hearing from all of you.
Roberta is our agent, so
All right,
yes,
we'll try to book you.
yes, please.
Book through your agent. Okay, very good. Well, thank you so much for spending the time, for the great presentations, for your visible and audible passion for the work that you do and for the city. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, gang. Let's see, where's my agenda? Okay. The last couple items for us to rip through here. I think most of these are pretty brief, but Roberta, do you want to talk about this administrative budget request about the
Yes.
CPA coalition? I think this should be a pretty short and sweet one.
All right. And I just wanted to call to everyone's attention that Louisa just put the link to the open space and recreation plan in the chat, so you can find that there. The administrative budget request, I am trying to follow instructions that were set by CPC members well before my time, who requested that large requests for CPA admin spending come through the committee. And the largest request that we routinely have is the CPA Coalition requests dues of their CPA communities, and the dues are scaled to the amount of revenue that we draw in. So since we are now a 3% community, the amount of revenue that Somerville draws in puts us in the coalition's $10,000 membership category. So I am requesting the CPC to consider approving my payment of $10,000 membership dues for the CPA Coalition.
Questions, comments, John?
What funds do those come out
I'm
of?
sorry?
Sorry, what funds?
The administrative funds.
Okay.
This would be setting aside don't quote me, but a portion of the roughly $100,000 of free, not free, but available admin funds within our allocation, correct?
Correct.
All right. Mary Jo?
In a typical year, Roberta, do you find that there's peer-to-peer or best practices type of things that you're able to gain by coming out of what this organization, with all the other PCs throughout the Commonwealth, is it? Have you found yourself relying on some of the tapping into peer know-how?
Yeah, we actually just had a meeting with the coalition today. I run a group of a peer network group for CPA managers of cities across the state. And the coalition just came today and talked about some of the legislative initiatives that they're working on to improve the CPA legislation. They're looking for input from CPA communities about what's working, what's not working, so that they can advocate to the legislature to do some fixes. And they also advocate for additional funding for CPA. One of the things that was under discussion was a way that the state might be able to reward communities who are contributing a higher proportion of their CPA funds to affordable housing. So in addition to providing technical expertise that we can call them anytime when we have questions, and they do facilitate some peer-to-peer networking. They're a conduit for us to be able to negotiate with the state about the way that the program works.
Any other questions or comments on this?
What was it in our lower tier? What were we paying in the past?
I think $7,000.
And this is valuable to you? You find this membership adds value?
Yes.
Okay.
That was going to be my question too, Dave. Good one. Okay. All right. With that, anybody with any reservations about moving to approve this? All right. With that, anybody like to make a motion?
Motion to approve an increase to, is it 10,000?
Or just the expenditure of $10,000.
The expenditure, I'm sorry, to that new level, to continue being a part of this CPA coalition.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thanks, Rona.
All
Roberta,
right.
please call
I
the
will
roll.
call the roll. David Turin,
Yes.
Michael McNally,
Aye.
Rona Fishman,
Yes.
Joe Capuano,
Yes.
John Bronnenkamp,
Yes.
Mary Jo Bohart,
Yes.
Carlos Ayala,
Yes.
Eric Parks,
Yes.
and Ryan Kirikoff.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. The Somerville Museum fiscal year 25 project update. I'm sorry, Roberta, I can't remember. Is that something you're going to be providing, or do we have guests?
I'm just going to provide a quick update. I had some debate as to whether to ask for your approval of this, but Alan and I determined that this is a minor enough budget change that we agreed to approve it administratively and report to you after the fact. So you can let me know if that's something that you wish that we had handled differently. But I'm going to share my screen right now so that I can show you what the Somerville Museum has done. All right. So they had originally a budget of 114,259 in their FY25 project. They were able to complete, there were 3 tasks to be completed within that budget, and there was also contingency that was included in the budget. They were able to complete 2 of the tasks under budget so that there was some funds left over. And they reached out to us and requested to be able to use the contingency and some of the leftover funds to, I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading my screen. The contingency and the leftover funds from the other 2 projects to increase the amount that they put toward archive conservation. So the archive conservation is an ongoing need that they have, and they wanted to expand the budget for what they could complete of this collection for this year out of this budget grant. So Alan and I approved that, and I just wanted to let you know that there was this shift in the budget without increasing the amount of funds. It's the final budget is still 114,259.
I think that is great. I think that's fine that you did that. I'm just at a point of curiosity. Did they ask you guys before they did it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they asked us before they did it, but they needed to retain the consultant who's helping with the archives conservation within a timeline, or else cancel the request to expand the project. So we met their timeline by giving them approval.
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel, unless someone feels otherwise, that's, I think, what the contingency funds are for.
All right. And
Yeah,
that's
I
all for
also
the
find
summer.
it interesting. Aren't they asking for more conservation, materials conservation this year? But they
It will
came in
be.
under budget last year.
So they came in under budget for specific artifacts that they conserved last year. And so each year I'm maintaining a list of the artifacts to make sure that each time they ask for some, for a unique ask, with the exception of the overall collections archivist, that's an ongoing need. The collections archivist is actually handling all of the materials and ensuring that their materials are being stored safely and cataloged so that they know what they have and that it's going to be in, if it needs any small treatment, they can give it the minor treatment before they put it in storage so that it will be in protected condition. So that's an ongoing need, but when they have larger restoration that's needed on their artifacts, that's when they have come to us to request funding to preserve those artifacts.
Okay. Anything else on this matter?
That's all on that.
Okay. Very good. Want to go on to historic preservation monitoring update?
Yeah, I regret that this is kind of a big item to talk about, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I'm going to refer to it in the meeting packet. There's the final report from the consultants that we had last year, and I've also drafted a historic preservation guidelines project 2-pager to actually 3-pager. I'm looking at it to show you how we are changing our procedures based on the work that we did with the consultants last year. And I will share the screen and give a very high level overview of that. And maybe this is something that we could come back and talk more about later if you have a lot of questions, or you can corner me. You all can come and work with me at some of the upcoming tabling events, and we can spend an afternoon talking about the historic preservation monitoring. But let me just give a very high level overview. So we reviewed and updated standard conditions for CPA historic preservation grants. We clarified the public benefits for the purposes of complying with the anti-aid amendment. And I would really encourage you to take a closer look at this summary later so that you can remember some of the things that we've learned when we come to putting conditions on the historic preservation projects that are in front of us this year. We drafted a framework for potential historic preservation grants tied to the Housing Division's Home Improvement Program. We don't see an application from them this year. It's probably a concept that still needs more testing for them to try. And we developed new monitoring procedures for CPA historic preservation projects. So what we are doing is now working with an on-call technical assistance consultant to ensure that projects comply with the Secretary of the Interior standards for historic preservation when they are permitted and constructed. In the past, we worked with a member of the planning division who had historic preservation expertise, and that person has retired. And so we're now formalizing a process for doing this for each project, making sure that we're obtaining the input that we need to see that they comply with the standards required under CPA program. And the CPA manager, I will perform ongoing monitoring of project sites for 15 years. We added this 15-year clawback, so I'm going to go look at each site every year to say, did they just undo the work that we paid for? And it did, we'll have a conversation about it. So this will hopefully help to ensure that we're meeting the requirements. This is a new thing that we haven't been doing in the past. And finally, we're establishing coordination with the Historic Preservation Commission and with the Inspectional Services Department to ensure that CPA projects are appropriately reviewed when they obtain permit approvals. In the past, there have been some CPA projects that are not actually local historic districts, so that there was nobody checking to make sure that they were in compliance with historic preservation standards when they went through permitting. So now we can make sure that we're applying the correct standards to all of our projects, whether they have preservation restrictions, clawback agreements, or none of the above. We can make sure that if it's our business, we are keeping an eye on it. And then there's a table that I provided that gives a little bit more detail about what kinds of restrictions we're keeping an eye on and who has the responsibility for that. And that's my very high level update on monitoring. And I don't know, Ryan, if you'd like to pause or if you'd like to move on for a couple of last minute updates.
I think unless anybody has any pressing questions or comments on that, we can obviously come back to it next time as well. Maybe let's do that. So yeah, do you want to take us through last admin items on the agenda here?
Sure. So a couple of things I did include, right, in the CPC planning folder, an outreach schedule. I have bolded a couple of activities that I have confirmed. So I see that Rona has already volunteered. You can let us know if you're still available, Rona, for National Night Out, which is coming up in less than 2 weeks. And I've also just signed us up for the Gilman Square Festival and for Fluff Festival. And so we could use volunteers to help with those 2 events. I have not yet set a date for Davis Square Farmers Market. That's really helpful because I think it's the only thing that we have. Or no, we also have Tufts Community Day that's on the west side of the city. And Monster Mash, I had not set a date yet as of when I drew up the calendar this spring. And so the 3 events that are bolded are the ones that I'm most immediately looking for volunteers for. And one other small thing I wanted to mention is that the administration right now is currently undertaking a review of multi-member bodies. Current committee members are invited to submit comments. The review committee's mission will report on an assessment of the functions and relevancies of the current municipal boards and commissions. A review of activities of the boards and commissions from recent years, the ability of the city to fill appointments to those bodies, and recommendations for combining, terminating, or establishing new commissions. So you are invited to provide any comments or feedback on boards and commissions, recruitment, retaining, whatever your thoughts are. Brandon Salisbury. I will put his contact information in the chat so you can grab that if you would like to send comments.
Great, thank you.
And that's all I have for this evening.
Excellent. All right, any other business from anybody else?
Just Roberta, I have you on the calendar, so we're on.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I just had to look to make sure I didn't mess it up.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Rona.
and I think that you can either edit that calendar, and if not, you can just email me if you're available on the other dates, and I'll add you to the calendar.
Yeah, I did try editing it and it didn't let me, so I think you'd
Okay.
so we'd have to
Yeah.
request permission or
Thanks.
just email you. Yeah.
Yeah, just email me and I'll put you on. Thanks.
All right, great. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roberta, please call the roll.
David Turin,
Yes.
Michael McNally,
Aye.
Rona Fishman,
Yes.
Joe Capuano,
Yes.
John Bronnenkamp,
Yes.
Mary Jo Bohart,
Yes.
Carlos Ayala,
Yes.
Eric Parks,
Yes.
and Ryan Kirikoff.
Yes. All right.
All
Thank
right.
you all very much.
All right. Thank
you.
you. Have a good night.
You all.
Right.